My name is Emily Ward. I'm 31 years old. And for most of my life, my parents treated me less like a daughter and more like the live-in maid they never had to pay. Meanwhile, my younger brother Ethan grew up in the kind of spotlight that never dimmed. He was the golden child, the prodigy, the one they paraded proudly while I scrubbed, cooked, fetched, and disappeared into the background. But last December, something happened that shattered the roles they assigned us and revealed a truth so shocking that even the CEO they were desperate to impress called me boss. Before I tell you how everything flipped in one unbelievable moment, please take a second to subscribe if you enjoy emotional, justice-filled stories. And tell me where you're watching from. I read every single comment. Now, let me take you back to the night everything changed. I was in my small Boston apartment, rolling up clothes into my suitcase for a long overdue solo vacation. When my phone lit up, Mom, I didn't even need to answer to know I wasn't going to like whatever she wanted. But old habits die hard. I inhaled deeply and picked up. Emily, my mother snapped. Not hello, not how are you, just my name. Like I'd already done something wrong. Cancel whatever little plans you have for tomorrow. I kept folding my blouse. Why? What's tomorrow? There was a dramatic exhale, the kind that made it clear I was inconveniencing her simply by existing. Ethan's hosting an important holiday dinner. Very important. Executives from Silverline Technologies will be there. People with real influence. That last part was pointed, sharpened, directed straight at me. You'll need to be at the house by noon, she continued. I'm sending you the menu. 7 dishes. And please don't use too much salt this time. Your brother's guests have refined taste. I froze. She wanted me to cook again. For Ethan's business connections. For the son who never lifted a finger while I handled everything behind the scenes. Mom, I said slowly, I'm leaving for Florida tomorrow. My flight is, well, reschedule it, she cut in. This is Ethan's big moment. It's important to the family. There it was, the family. A word they only used when they needed me to serve them. What about a caterer? I asked, even though I knew the answer. She laughed softly, a sound that always felt condescending. Emily, be reasonable. Why would we hire a caterer when you can handle it? It's not like you're too busy. My eyes drifted to the email glowing on my laptop screen, the one from Victoria Halle, CEO of Halle Premier Hospitality, confirming our meeting tomorrow morning. If only my mother knew, but she never asked, not once. My life only mattered when it benefited Ethan's. Wear something simple, my mother added, her voice dripping with disapproval. Ethan said you look too casual at Thanksgiving. Casual, I repeated, my voice flat. I cooked for 14 hours. You always exaggerate, she huffed. Use the good china tomorrow. And tidy up your brother's living room before the guests arrive. My grip on the phone tightened. They still thought I was the same girl who quietly obeyed, who showed up because guilt was the only thread tying me to that house. But I wasn't her anymore, not after the last 5 years. My mother kept talking, her voice a distant drone, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was staring at the leather folder on my desk, the folder that held the contract set to take my company, Ward and Willow Events, to its next level. My mother didn't know the truth. For 5 years I had been building an event planning and hospitality consulting company from scratch. Late nights, no safety net, no support from them, no cheering section, just grit and stubborn faith in myself. Now we had 60 employees across 2 cities. We'd handled celebrity galas, luxury fundraisers, and corporate retreats for some of the biggest names out there. And tomorrow, I had a meeting that could secure a $1.8 million contract. A contract with the same company Ethan was trying to impress with his little dinner party. Silverline Technologies. The irony was so thick, so almost poetic, I nearly laughed out loud. My mother was still talking when I finally lowered the phone from my ear. Emily, are you listening? I said, bring your apron. I'm not coming, I said calmly. Silence, the kind of stunned, cold silence that precedes a storm. Then, what did you say? I'm not coming tomorrow. I have a meeting. With who? She demanded, her tone accusatory. I almost told her. The words were right on the tip of my tongue. But something inside me, something tired and wise, stopped them. They didn't deserve to know, not yet. Someone important, I said. And I won't reschedule. Her voice sharpened into that familiar blade. Emily Ward, don't you dare embarrass this family. Your brother needs you. No, I said softly, the truth finally setting me free. He wants a maid. I'm not that anymore. You are being ridiculous, she snapped. Ethan's on track to become VP at Silver Line. Do you know what that means for us? For this family? This time I did laugh. A small, quiet sound of disbelief. Because tomorrow morning, Silver Line's CEO wouldn't be talking to Ethan. She would be addressing someone far more unexpected, me. I ended the call without another word. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed again, a text from Ethan. Mom says you're cooking tomorrow. Don't mess it up this time. These people matter. Once, those words would have crushed me. They would have sent me spiraling into a familiar pit of worthlessness. But now? They just clarified everything. I zipped up my suitcase, slid the leather contract folder into the front pocket, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not truly. Freedom, resolve, self-worth. Tomorrow wouldn't be a day they ordered me around. Tomorrow would be the day they learned exactly who I had become. I barely slept that night. Not because I was anxious, I'd done anxious for most of my life. What kept me awake was something far more powerful, clarity. The kind that settles in your chest after years of swallowing your voice. The kind that whispers they don't get to define you anymore. At 6 a.m., I grabbed my suitcase, my caramel coat, and the leather folio holding the contract that could change my company's future. I didn't tell my parents I'd left town. I didn't text Ethan. I didn't answer the 5 missed calls from my mother. Instead, I headed straight to the Halle Premier Hospitality headquarters, a towering glass building overlooking the Boston Harbor, glowing gold in the early sunrise. The moment I walked into the lobby, the receptionist greeted me with a warm smile. Good morning. You must be Miss Ward. I blinked. How did you... You're on the VIP list, she said cheerfully. Top priority. For a moment, I just stood there, stunned. Back home, I wasn't even a priority for the cat. Here, I was important enough to be expected. The receptionist handed me a visitor badge with my name Emily Ward printed neatly beneath the silver Halle insignia. Please head up to the 24th floor. Miss Halle is expecting you. Miss Halle, Victoria Hale, CEO of a multi-million-dollar hospitality empire and one of my most sought-after potential clients. My mother would faint if she knew whose emails I'd been responding to. The 24th floor was elegant but understated soft lighting, polished stone floors and tall windows with sweeping harbor views. A woman in a navy pencil skirt stood up as soon as I stepped off the elevator. Miss Ward, welcome. I'm Rachel, Victoria's executive assistant. She's asked me to bring you in right away. Right away. These small details would have never mattered back when my parents treated me like a built-in servant. But now, they meant everything. Rachel led me into a spacious, glass-walled office where Victoria Halle stood by the window, reviewing a set of outlines. She turned immediately when she saw me. Emily, she said warmly. It's so good to finally meet in person. She walked over, offered her hand, and smiled like she was greeting a peer, not someone my parents dismissed as a disappointment. It's an honor, I said honestly. Please, she laughed lightly. The honor is mutual. Your company's portfolio blew us away. She gestured for me to sit at the conference table. We spent the next hour going over logistics, branding ideas, and event concepts. For the first time in years, I felt like I was being seen as the professional I had become, not a maid. Not an afterthought, a businesswoman. Halfway through the meeting, Victoria leaned back in her chair and gave me a thoughtful look. Emily, do you know why I reached out to you specifically? I blinked. I assume because of our event work. That's part of it, she said. But the truth is, Ethan recommended you months ago. My breath stilled. Ethan, my brother? The same brother who'd spent every family event calling me the help. Victoria nodded. He mentioned you were brilliant at organizing and executing events. The best I know, he said. I almost laughed out loud. He had never said anything remotely kind to my face. Not once.
He said that? I managed to ask.
Yes, that's why I checked out your company. And honestly, he undersold you. I sat there, stunned, processing the irony. Ethan, the one who demanded I cook, clean, and appear invisible, had unknowingly helped launch my biggest career opportunity. Victoria slid a document toward me. Emily, I'd like your company to lead our 5-city hospitality expansion project. It's a 12-month contract valued at just over $1 million. My fingers trembled around the pen. Just over $1 million. More than my parents had ever earned in 2 years. I signed the preliminary agreement. Victoria clasped my hand. Congratulations, boss. Boss. The word hit me like a warm, powerful wave. As I walked out of the office building, my phone buzzed again and again. Mom, 9 missed calls. Dad, 3 missed calls. Ethan, 5 messages. I finally opened Ethan's texts. Bro, where are you? Mom says you're ignoring everyone. Dinner is today. Silverline execs are coming. Don't ruin this for us. I stared at the messages, an unexpected calm rising in me. He thought I would ruin things. He had no idea the world he admired now had my name on their contract. My phone buzzed again, but this time from an unknown number. I opened it. Unknown. Hi Emily, this is Alan Pierce, CEO of Silverline Technologies. Victoria told me you're in town. I'd love to meet briefly today to discuss future partnership opportunities. Free at 4? I read it twice. The CEO, Ethan, was desperately trying to impress. Wanted to meet me. Not my brother, me. I typed back. 4 p.m. Works perfectly. Thank you. As I stepped into the sunlight, my phone buzzed again, this time, my mother's name flashing across the screen. I finally answered. Emily, she snapped immediately. Where on earth are you? Ethan's guests are already on their way. I exhaled slowly. Mom, I said calmly. I'm not coming. You what? She screeched. Do you have any idea how important these people are? I smiled, a real smile for the first time in a long time. Oh, I said gently. I know exactly how important they are. I walked toward my Uber, suitcase rolling behind me. But I don't think you know how important I've become. The drive back toward my parents' house felt strangely peaceful. Not because I'd planned to go inside. I didn't. But because for the first time in my life, I wasn't returning as their maid. I was returning as someone they didn't know existed. The person I had built quietly. The woman they had underestimated. The boss they never imagined I could become. As my Uber pulled onto their street, luxury cars already lined the curb. Ethan's important guests had clearly begun to arrive. People stepped out wearing tailored coats and polished shoes, carrying gift bags and bottles of wine. I recognized one of them instantly. Alan Pierce, CEO of Silverline Technologies, the man my family was desperate to impress. My mother practically worshipped his LinkedIn profile. My father quoted articles about him at dinner. Ethan treated his name like a golden ticket, and he was here. At the same time, I was supposed to meet him across town. The irony was so thick it felt electric in the air. I stayed in the car, close enough to see, far enough to stay unseen. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Alan. I'm outside your address. Excited to meet you. I stared at the message. Your address? He knew where I lived. No, he knew the address on my business registration. Before I could reply, he stepped out of his black sedan, glanced around the driveway, and started walking toward the front door. My mother nearly tackled him with enthusiasm. Oh my goodness, Mr. Pierce. What an honor, she gasped, smoothing her dress. Please come in. We're so grateful you could join us. Alan shook her hand politely, but his eyes moved past her, scanning, searching, clearly looking for someone else. For me, my brother burst out next, adjusting his tie anxiously. Mr. Pierce, I'm Ethan, so glad you could make it. Alan's polite smile remained, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yes, Ethan, nice to finally meet you in person. He paused.
Is Emily here yet? Ethan blinked. Emily?
My mother let out a laugh, the kind people use when they embarrassed, but trying to hide it. Oh, she's around somewhere. Probably helping in the kitchen like always. Alan's eyebrows lifted slightly. The kitchen? My father joined them, shaking Alan's hand vigorously. Thank you for coming. Big night for us. We've got quite the spread prepared. Thanks to our Emily, she's good at domestic things. My hands curled into fists on my lap. Alan's expression shifted, not angry, not confused, but knowing. Understanding something they didn't. Before anyone could add another sentence, I finally stepped out of the Uber. I stood at the edge of the driveway in a crisp emerald blazer and tailored pants, the same outfit I'd worn to my meeting with Victoria. My mother froze. My father's smile dropped. Ethan's face went pale. Alan's expression, however, it lit up. "There you are," he said warmly.
Emily.
All three of my family members turned at the same time. "Emily?" My mother snapped. "What are you doing here? You should have been inside hours ago, cooking." But Alan took 2 steps forward, cutting her off. "I'm glad we could meet in person," he said, extending his hand toward me. "Victoria speaks very highly of you." Silence. Then a soft, muffled choke from my mother. My father blinked rapidly. "Victoria who?" "Victoria Halle," Alan said casually. "CEO of Halle Premier Hospitality. She told me Emily's company signed on to manage their expansion project." My mother's jaw dropped so fast it nearly hit the driveway. Ethan stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time in his life. I shook Alan's hand firmly. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I hope the drive wasn't too long." "Not at all," he said. "But I'm confused. Am I at the wrong place?" "I assumed we were meeting at your office," my father stuttered. "Your office?" Alan chuckled lightly. "Of course, Ward and Willow Events." "Emily's company," my mother wheezed. Ethan blinked in slow motion. My father gripped the porch railing like it was the only thing keeping him upright. I straightened my blazer. "My office is 20 minutes away," I said. "But since you're already here, perhaps we can talk on the patio?" Alan nodded. "Perfect." My parents stepped aside without a word, stunned into silence, as Alan and I walked past them. People in the yard stared as he opened every door, every conversation, every bit of attention toward me. Not Ethan. Not my mother. Not my father. Me. He asked me about our team. Our branding approach. Our growth projections. Projects I'd handled. Systems I'd built. And I answered confidently, not performing, not pretending. Just being the woman they never gave space to become. After 20 minutes of talking, Alan smiled. "You know," he said, "I can see why Victoria speaks so highly of you. You're sharp, strategic. You don't waste words. You're exactly the type of leader we like partnering with." My parents heard every word they never said to me. Then came the moment, the one that would replay in my mind for the rest of my life. Someone tapped Alan on the shoulder. "Sorry, sir. The team's asking where to set up the guest seating. Should we confirm with Mr. Ethan Ward?" Alan turned to the man and said, without hesitation, without confusion, without even glancing at Ethan, "Ask my boss, Emily." The entire yard fell silent. My mother gasped. Ethan's face flushed red, his jaw hanging open. My father nearly dropped the wine bottle he was holding. Alan gestured toward me like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "She's the one managing our national hospitality expansion next year," he said. "Whatever she says goes." And right there, in front of their guests, their dreams, their golden child, my parents watched the CEO they idolized call their MAID, his boss. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more stories like this. For a long moment, no one spoke, not the guests, not my parents, not Ethan. Even the winter air felt frozen around us as Alan's words echoed across the backyard. "Ask my boss, Emily." I don't think my parents had ever gone so still in their lives. My mother's painted smile cracked like thin ice. My father's hand tightened around the wine bottle until I feared it would shatter. Ethan looked like someone had unplugged him from reality. And then, as if the universe wanted to let the moment sink in deeper, one of the Silver Line executives stepped toward me with an easy smile. "Miss Ward, could we get your approval on the layout? Alan says you've worked wonders on the Boston project." I nodded. "Of course." The executive gestured politely toward the seating chart Ethan had created, messy, rushed, clearly thrown together last minute. "We'd love your perspective," he added. Ethan blinked. "You want her perspective?" "Of course," the man said simply. "She's guiding our expansion. If silence had weight, my parents would have been crushed beneath it." I walked toward the large patio table where Ethan's seating plan was laid out.
He trailed behind me, lips parted, confusion clouding his face. "Emily," he whispered sharply. "What?"
"What is this? What did you do? What did I do? I repeated, glancing at him. I built a company. He shook his head. No, seriously, this isn't funny. These people, these are huge names. They're here for me, Emily, for my career. And yet, I said calmly, the CEO is here asking me for direction. His cheeks flushed a painful red. You don't even work in tech. I don't have to. I work with people who do. I paused. Successfully, his jaw tightened. You should have told me, he muttered. I looked him dead in the eyes. Why, so you could take credit for that too? Ethan looked away sharply, but he didn't argue. He couldn't. Meanwhile, my mother was trying and failing to recover her composure. I watched her force a smile as she approached one of the executives, hand trembling slightly. So, you all work with our Ethan, she said in a tone dripping with rehearsed pride. The man smiled politely. Oh, no, ma'am. We're here because Alan wanted to meet Emily in person. He's very excited about the partnership. My mother blinked. Excited? She repeated weakly. Yes, ma'am. Emily's company is extraordinary. Her event designs? Stunning. Honestly, she's one of the strongest leaders we've seen in this industry. I watched the words land exactly where they needed to. Not harsh, not loud, just true. And truth leaves marks. My father excused himself and marched toward the side of the house, gripping his phone. He spoke in a low, frantic voice, probably Googling my company name. Realizing my website and portfolio were public and very real, when he returned, his face was drained. He looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. Or worse, seeing the daughter he never bothered to know. An hour later, the backyard had transformed. Guests chatted, laughed, clinked glasses. Alan introduced me to everyone as his company's newest key partner. Executives asked for my card, for meetings, for dates to collaborate. And through it all, my parents hovered near the edges, confused, embarrassed, unsure where they fit in a world where their maid outranked their golden child. At one point, Alan turned to my father. You must be proud of her. Emily is truly exceptional. My father swallowed hard. For the first time in my life, he didn't interrupt, dismiss, or deflect. He simply said quietly, Yes, she is. It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase everything, but it was a start. Later, when most guests had settled into conversations, my mother pulled me aside. Her voice was soft, trembling, almost fragile. Emily, why didn't you tell us? I met her eyes. You never asked. She blinked rapidly, tears gathering. That's not fair, she whispered. No, I said gently. It's the truth. She covered her mouth with her hand. I didn't know you were doing all this. I didn't know you were capable of... That's the problem, Mom, I said. You assumed I wasn't. She sank onto a patio chair, shoulders trembling. I thought we were helping Ethan, lifting him up, supporting his future. And mine, I asked. She looked at me with eyes full of regret. Emily... I'm so sorry. I'd waited my entire life to hear those words. But I wasn't prepared for the mix of relief and grief they brought. As the evening went on, Ethan approached me too. He stood awkwardly, shifting his weight, unable to meet my eyes. He said quietly. I didn't know about any of this. You never tried to know, I replied. He nodded slowly. That's true. He took a breath. Congratulations, really. I gave a small nod. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. And sometimes that's the first step. Toward the end of the night, Alan found me standing near the fence, watching the lights shimmer across the lawn. You handled all of that with incredible grace, he said. I smiled faintly. Years of practice, he chuckled. One more thing before I leave. I want you to lead our national event strategy next year. Not just the expansion, everything. My heart stilled. That means, he continued, you won't just be my partner. He paused, smiling warmly. You'll be my go-to advisor. My top strategist, my boss? I teased gently. He laughed. Exactly. The word no longer shocked me. It felt right. It felt earned. As guests drifted out and the night quieted, my parents approached me together. For once, not demanding, not criticizing, not treating me like the help. Just standing there. My mother's voice trembled. Emily, would you please come home for Christmas as our guest? Not our maid? I took a long breath. I'll think about it. It wasn't a yes, but it was more than they deserved at that moment. The power to choose finally mine. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow for more. 2 days after that dinner, I was on a plane to Florida. This was the trip I had refused to cancel just for my family's convenience. And it felt like hitting a reset button on my entire life. The ocean breeze, the warmth of the sun, the quiet. It was exactly what I needed. But even as I relaxed, my mind kept replaying that night. Alan calling me boss, my mother's awkward apology, my father's stunned silence, and Ethan's fragile, whispered congratulations. It didn't heal everything, not by a long shot, but it had cracked something open. It created a space for truth, a space for boundaries, a space where I could finally exist on my own terms. When I flew back from Florida 3 days later, a message was waiting for me. It was from my parents asking if they could take me to lunch. Their treat, that was a first. We chose a quiet little restaurant downtown. When I walked in, they were already there, both of them looking uncharacteristically nervous. As I approached the table, my mother stood up and pulled me into a hug. It was awkward and tight, almost desperate. "Emily," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for coming." My father cleared his throat, his eyes avoiding mine for a second. "We wanted to talk," he said. Properly. I simply nodded and took my seat, waiting. For the first time in my life, they didn't launch into a list of demands, instructions, or thinly veiled criticisms. Instead, my mother looked me straight in the eyes, her own welling up, and said something I never, ever expected to hear. "We failed you." My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't have spoken if I'd wanted to. She continued, her voice soft but steady. "We didn't realize how much we relied on you until we saw who you've become. We took your quietness for weakness. We took all your help for granted. And we never should have." My father nodded in agreement, his voice rough when he finally spoke. "We always saw Ethan as the one who needed support. You were always so strong, so capable. We convinced ourselves you didn't need anything from us." He paused, taking a deep breath. "But that wasn't fair. You should have had our encouragement, not just our expectations." As he spoke, years of swallowed hurt rose up inside me like a tide. I thought of all the times I'd missed out on my own life. All the moments I was dismissed, all the silent weight I had carried completely alone. I didn't cry. But I felt something inside me soften, just enough to let their words in, to let them land. "I appreciate you saying that," I said quietly, my voice even. "But an apology doesn't erase everything." "We know," my mother whispered, reaching a hand across the table but then pulling it back. "But we want to start making things right. Even if it takes a long, long time." My father straightened his shoulders, his voice firming up with a new kind of resolve. "We'd like to invest in Ward and Willow. No strings attached, just support. Real support." I stared at him, completely stunned. "An investment? From them?" "I don't need the money," I said gently, trying to process it. "We know," he replied immediately. "That's not the point." My mother nodded. "We want to be part of your life. Not as people who use you, but as people who cheer for you." And for the first time, I actually believed they meant it. A week later, it was Christmas morning. This time, I didn't arrive at their house at the crack of dawn, my arms full of groceries and my mind running through a to-do list. I just arrived, as a guest. The dining table was already beautifully set. My mother had cooked everything herself. It wasn't perfect, not like my events, but it was genuine. It was hers. My father insisted that I sit at the head of the table, his usual spot. And then Ethan, my brother, handed me a small wrapped box, his hands shaking just a little. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, were custom gold-embossed business cards. They read, "Emily Ward, founder and CEO, Ward and Willow Events." I ran my fingers over the raised letters, feeling the weight of them. Ethan swallowed hard, looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry for treating you like an assistant my whole life." I looked up from the cards and met his gaze. "Thank you," I whispered back. "That means more than you know." And then we hugged. A real hug. The kind of hug we should have shared years and years ago. Later that afternoon, after the meal was cleared and we were all relaxing, My parents asked me to step into the living room. My mother was holding an envelope. My father looked just as nervous as he had at the restaurant. "We want you to have this," she said, handing it to me. Inside, I found a handwritten letter, long, emotional, messy, and tucked behind it, a check for $50,000. "For your company," my father said, his voice thick with emotion. "Or for yourself, or for whatever future you choose. Not because you need it, but because we want to contribute to your dreams." And that's when the tears finally came. For the first time in my life, standing in my parents' living room, I cried. Not from pain, from healing. By New Year's Eve, Ward and Willow had signed 3 new corporate clients. They were all referrals from Silverline's leadership team, from the very event that had changed everything. Alan, the CEO, sent me an email with a simple subject line: "Ready, boss." I smiled as I read it. And in that moment, I realized something profound. I wasn't just building a company. I was building a life. A life that looked nothing like the one they had all boxed me into for so long. One choice, one boundary. One single moment of self-respect had set off a chain reaction, changing absolutely everything. On a quiet January morning, I stood on the balcony of my apartment, a warm mug of tea in my hands, watching the sunrise paint the sky. My phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother. "Breakfast soon? My treat. No cooking required," followed by a little smiley face emoji. I smiled, not because everything was suddenly perfect. It wasn't, but because everything was finally honest. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't their maid. I wasn't their afterthought. I wasn't invisible. I was Emily Ward, daughter, leader, and the boss of my own life. And that was more than enough.